Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Lukenessmonster, and if you're just getting into the Black Series, there's a lot of stuff that you need to know. Collecting the Black Series can be pretty difficult from time to time, and just understanding different parts of the Black Series like releases, pre-orders, finding stuff in store, and so much more can be kind of hard if you don't know. And so that's why in this video, I'm going to be giving you guys a beginner's guide to collecting the Black Series. First up is starting your Black Series journey. The first thing you have to do is, of course, pick up a few Black Series figures. If you're new to the Black Series and you haven't really gotten any figures yet, but you kind of want to, I highly suggest you guys do so. And so the first thing that you're going to need to do is just kind of look up some figures and pick the ones that you like. Obviously, you don't have to commit to collecting just yet, but it doesn't hurt to pick up a few Black Series figures here and there and kind of just play around with them, see how you like them, see how you like displaying them, setting them up. And if you like the figures, that'll really decide if you want to get into collecting Black Series or not. But I do suggest starting with some of your favorite characters because there's always new characters releasing into the line, and some of them aren't always the most popular characters, and so it's just easiest to start with figures that you would consider your favorite. Now, step number 2, you've bought a few figures and you decided that you want to collect Black Series figures, but you don't really know where to start. Now, the first thing that you need to do once you decided that you want to collect Black Series figures is decide what you're going to collect. Obviously, there are tons of different Black Series figures out there from all different eras of Star Wars. There are prequels, there are sequels, there's original trilogy, TV shows like The Clone Wars, The Mandalorian, and so much more. And so I think the easiest way to start collecting is to just buy figures you like. If you like The Mandalorian, go buy a Din Djarin figure. If you like the original trilogy, start with like a Stormtrooper or a Darth Vader. Those are great figures. Obviously, there's tons of prequel figures out there too. If you like the prequels, buy some Clone Troopers, buy an Anakin or an Obi-Wan. Really, it is up to you, but I think that's the easiest way to start your collection is to just buy figures that you like. Buy characters that you are interested in and you want figures of. I think another easy way to start collecting is to start with different genres. So if you like the prequels, buy only prequel figures, or if you like the OT, buy a bunch of OT figures. I think this is the easiest if you want to kind of like theme your displays. Like if you want an Imperial display, buy Imperial figures. This is great for beginners because if you want to have a small collection and you kind of want your displays to be themed, it's good for building bigger displays but without having like a ton of different figures. And that comes to my second part of this, and that is figuring out how you're going to display your figures. Are you an in-box collector? Are you an out-of-box collector? Because those are obviously huge with the figures that you buy and how you display them. If you're an out-of-box collector like me, you're going to want to look into a good way to display your figures. For a while, I took my figures out of the box, but then I would put them back into the box and I would display them on the wall in the box. I did that for a long time, but then I actually got some shelving. And what I would do is I would display my figures on shelves. I eventually bought risers so that my figures could have different layers and you could actually see them like in the back of the shelf. And yeah, eventually it just evolved to a nice looking collection. And really, how you display it is up to you because it's whatever you like to do. Obviously, displaying these figures, setting them up, posing them, it's all what you find enjoyment out of collecting, and so you should do what makes you the most happy. If getting risers and putting them on shelves isn't for you, you could look into something like 3D printing dioramas. Lane Speeder Luke is a great option for 3D printed Black Series scale dioramas, so make sure to go check him out. He's great for resources there. And honestly, that's another way I love displaying my figures is just 3D printing dioramas. Like I love figures up on the shelf just in like a display, but if you can get the like 6-inch scale background behind it and the kind of diorama feel, it's a whole nother way of collecting. Step number 3. Now you've decided what you're gonna buy and how you're gonna display it. Now the real question is, how and where do you buy figures? So of course, the simple answer to this is in stores. Your mainline figures are going to be carried in store by pretty much your standard big box chains, like your Walmart, your Target, your Meijer. All of your big box stores are going to carry the mainline waves for the Black Series. And then GameStop is one of the best choices for finding Black Series figures in store. Obviously, they specialize in games and collectibles, so they're pretty regularly stocked full of Black Series figures. And then of course, the pretty obvious answer to this as well is shopping online. Your online stores for your Walmart, your Target, and your GameStop, all of those are going to have those figures online as well. So if you don't want to go in store to find them or you can't find them in store, chances are they may have them online, so make sure to check online for those. Amazon is another great choice. Amazon always does a lot of deals and discounts. So if you're looking for Black Series figures a little cheaper, Amazon is a great place for that. And then you also have to look into your fan channel sites. Hasbro, during their panels, always throws around the words fan channel, and it's kind of hard to actually know what that means sometimes. But fan channel is essentially a combination of like 4 or 5 different websites. There's a store called Big Bad Toy Store, there's an online store called Entertainment Earth, and then there's Hasbro's website, Hasbro Pulse, as well as GameStop.com and Amazon.com. Those are your 5 fan channel stores. Hasbro is always announcing Black Series fan channel exclusives, and so these are figures that are not going to show up in store, but they're pretty much online exclusives, and they're pretty much exclusive to those 5 stores that I mentioned. The only exception to this is for GameStop, because GameStop obviously is a fan channel store, but they're gonna hold all of your figures in person as well. And so GameStop is really the only place to find fan channel figures in person, so I always like GameStop because you can find mainline figures and fan channel figures. But of course, everything that I'm talking about are for figures that are currently in stock or that are releasing soon for pre-orders. What about figures that are older, that are no longer sold on the standard market? Well, I think the best place to look are 2 places, and that is 1, eBay, and 2 is Facebook Marketplace. These are going to be the best places to get Black Series figures that are no longer sold at retail. And depending on the figure, they're going to be more expensive than they retailed for, or they're going to be less expensive. And so this really just comes down to 1, how much are you willing to pay for this figure? And 2, is it worth the aftermarket value? If you guys haven't seen yet, make sure to go check out the website Action Figure 411. This is a website that pretty much shows every single Black Series release, and it also shows the recently sold eBay listings, and it gives it a aftermarket value. Let's say you want to buy something on eBay, but you don't know if it's worth the X amount of dollars that somebody has it up for, because it'll actually give you a pretty accurate estimate of the aftermarket value, and it'll tell you if you're paying a fair aftermarket price. Facebook Marketplace is going to be a lot of different like sold lots. So it's somebody like, oh, I'm selling this lot of Black Series figures. And so that's just going to come down to finding a good price for some of the figures you're looking for. Facebook Marketplace is pretty hit or miss. Either you're going to find some like really good deals or you're not going to find anything at all. And then that comes down to the 4th point, and that is patience is key. If there's a Black Series figure you want, chances are it's going to get some sort of re-release in the future. Trust me, I know there's a really popular Black Series figure out there that you want, but it's like $100 on eBay, and you just don't want to pay that much for it. I get it, I've been there so many times. When I first started collecting back in 2019, I really wanted Commander Cody. Commander Cody went for hundreds of dollars on eBay, and I just could not physically pay that price. But a few months later, it was re-released in the archive line, and ever since then, that older Commander Cody figure goes for like 20 bucks on the aftermarket. If people are willing to pay a lot of money on the aftermarket, like hundreds of dollars, chances are Hasbro is going to do some sort of re-release or remake of it so that they can get in on that action. So again, trust me, if there's a figure that you want, patience is key. You may have to wait a few years for it, and if you don't want to wait that long, maybe it's a good idea to buy it on the aftermarket, but everything will get some sort of re-release, reissue, or remake at some point or another. So yeah, patience is key. And that brings me to step number 5, which is actually just stay informed. There's always a lot of stuff going on in the Black Series community, from new reveals to figures showing up in stores, and it's really good to stay informed with what's going on. So follow different social media accounts. I personally specialize in Black Series news here on my channel, so if you want to see the latest Black Series news, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on that kind of stuff. But there are tons of different channels out there that specialize in different stuff. On YouTube, I think my channel, Out of the Basement, Lane Speeder Luke are some of the best ones out there for getting informative information on Black Series. And there are also countless different social media accounts on Instagram and on TikTok. Yakface is one of the biggest ones out there, and they're going to be covering a lot of stuff like Black Series leaks and rumors. And so if you want to know about stuff that's going to get released before they actually get released and announced, make sure to go follow Yakface. He is huge in this community. And honestly, if you're not following Yakface, there's a lot of information you're missing out on. He's always linked down below in the description. But yeah, that's just one of the biggest things, is if you don't stay in the loop, you're gonna miss out on a lot of stuff. So just make sure to follow different social media accounts, subscribe to different channels, find what you like, the content that you like to watch, or the content you like to consume, and follow them and subscribe to them so that you can stay in that loop of information. And then last but not least, we're gonna be talking about the different types of Black Series releases, because it can get kind of confusing. I've thrown around words like fan channel exclusive or mainline figures. I've also thrown around archive and re-release, and so we're going to be breaking all that down. Every few months, Hasbro announces a mainline wave of figures. And this is pretty straightforward. It's in the name, it's mainline, and essentially that means it's a pretty wide release. Like I said, they're going to be available pretty much anywhere that you buy figures. Mainline figures are going to be there. The ability to walk into any store and just find what you're looking for, that's a different story, and that has to do with Hasbro's problem with actually stocking figures in store. and that's a video for a whole nother day. But mainline figures are going to be your most produced figures and your most readily available figures. Then you've got store exclusives. Different stores will have exclusives that you can only buy at those stores. So every once in a while, Walmart will get a wave of exclusive figures, or Target will get a few exclusive figures here and there. And of course, like I said, it's pretty straightforward, but they're exclusive to those stores. So if you want that figure, you gotta go to Walmart to buy it, or you gotta go to Target to buy it. The main places that are getting exclusives are Walmart, Target, Amazon, and every once in a while GameStop. They used to have a lot more, but they don't really get them anymore. I think Amazon kind of pulled the rug out from under them and kind of took all of their exclusives. There are also deluxe figures. Deluxe figures are bigger, beefier figures, or they're characters that come with a lot more extra accessories, and these are figures that are going to be also mainline. Now, I can't guarantee that they're going to be carried to the same quantity that most mainline waves are, but they're supposed to be available at every single place that you buy your mainline wave figure. So your Walmarts, your Targets in stores, all of your online retailers, they should be carrying these deluxe figures too. Of course, we do have fan channel exclusives. And these are pretty similar to the in-store exclusives, but they are online exclusives to the 5 stores that I mentioned earlier. These are your fan channel stores, your Big Bad Toy Store, your Entertainment Earth, Hasbro Pulse, Amazon, and GameStop. These are your 5 fan channel stores, and anything that's labeled fan channel exclusive are going to be available on those 5 stores. We've also got figures like the Archive line, and the Archive line is funny because they don't do it every year. Every once in a while, they'll do 2 or 3 waves a year for this Archive line, but it's kind of hit or miss whether they're going to do it or not. But anyway, the Archive line is actually just a wave of re-releases with slight upgrades. And so essentially, they're just old figures. They're Black Series figures that just haven't gotten a release in a long time, and they're in desperate need of an upgrade. And so typically these are straight re-releases. There's not typically a ton of upgrades other than a photoreal face application. So a lot of these figures were made before they had the photoreal face technology, and they're just re-releasing them and updating them with that photoreal technology. These ones are also carried by all of your mainline retailers. Hasbro also does reissues, and reissues are essentially just like re-releases of Black Series figures in the exact same packaging. A good example of this is the Red Line Captain Rex figure. This one is a really popular character, and it got really expensive on the aftermarket. And so what Hasbro did is they just did a reissue of it. They took the exact same figure, put it in the exact same packaging, and they reissued it. Now, typically reissues are fan channel exclusives, and so you're gonna be able to get them in GameStop stores and then on all those 5 websites we already talked about. Reissues don't typically hit your mainline retailers. Then there's also repacks, which is essentially a older figure repacked into new packaging. A good example of this is the Rogue One wave from a few years back. They took all of the old 2016 Rogue One figures and they just repackaged them into the 2020 mural artwork packaging. And so this just was a great way to get all these Rogue One figures back on the market. Another good example of this is, again, that Phase 2 Captain Rex figure. Hasbro just recently repacked it in with a Anakin Skywalker figure, and so now it's in a 2-pack part of the Clones of the Republic line. These aren't super common, but they will happen, and so it's important to know just because you see a figure in new packaging doesn't mean it's necessarily a new sculpt or a new figure. And then Hasbro also has anniversary lines, and these are on card backs, not boxes. And so people do get kind of confused, like, oh, it's on a card back. Is this a vintage collection figure? Is this 6-inch scale? Yes, it is. And essentially, these are just celebrating the anniversary of the release of some of these films. They did anniversary lines for A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, essentially just packing figures onto some of the retro card backs. They've also done it for the Clone Wars, Revenge of the Sith, Phantom Menace, and a lot more. These exclusive throwback packages tend to be pretty popular, and so they kind of hold a lot of value in the aftermarket. But yeah, that is a basic rundown of your beginner's guide to becoming a Black Series collector. If you guys did enjoy, make sure to go down, hit that like button, subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content, and let me know down below, what other questions do you have as you kind of begin this Black Series collecting journey, because I'd love to answer them down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one.